So I've read some really great books this week. Hey there, it's Mitzi. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to do a weekly reading wrap up. Now I am filming this earlier in the week because I've been doing Monday wrap ups, and to me I need to do it at the end of the week instead of the beginning of the week. But I usually do that so that I have the weekend to finish. So let me know in the comments if it matters to you. But I'm just thinking in my mind, I need to post these on Friday. So I have probably by the time you see this, read several other books. But I'm going to post it on Friday and then I'll kind of catch up and it'll just work itself out, I hope. Anyway, we'll see how this goes. I'm always experimenting with how I post these videos. So most of you know that I am reading for Jane Austen July. So the group read was Northanger Abbey. So this was my priority to get this read first. So I kicked off July with this one and another one that I'll talk about in just a second. But this is one of my favorite Jane Austen books. I know a lot of people say it's one of the, everybody pretty much says they enjoy the story that are Jane Austen fans, but they don't love it as much as some of her other works. For me, I have this higher on the list, I think, than other people. I love this story. It's not as long, it's about 200 pages. And it tells the story of Catherine Morland. And I just love her character because she's young and she's naive. And she just has this great imagination from reading all these gothic, sensational type novels. And I just see myself in that when I was her age. So that's why I think, I might not need to tell you that, but that's why I think I connect with her. Because I remember being young and probably a little sheltered, and then you go out in the world and you realize it's not what you think it is. And you can let your imagination run wild. And so I just think it's a fun story. But in this story, if you've never read Northanger Abbey, it's about Catherine Morland, who is, she's from a large family, and she gets a chance to go spend a few weeks in high society. And she learns a lot along the way. And she has this she's very imaginative. She has kind of like how, you know, we say Anne of Green Gables has this, Anne Shirley. She has this imagination, and she's a little out of touch with reality. Well, it's kind of like that at the beginning of this story with Catherine. But I love her character art in this. I love her imagination, and I love that she loves to read these gothic sensational novels. I just think that's fun. So that's what this story is about, and her growth as a person as she experiences these weeks in high society. And I love it, and I highly recommend that one. So that was one of my reads. Of course, it was a 5-star read. It always is. Now, another thing about Northanger Abbey, I was in a chat with a reading sprint this past week, and someone was mentioning that they had not read it or whatever, and we were discussing Jane Austen, and there is a great Northanger Abbey dramatization. It's an audio book. I found it on Audible. At one time, Audible had this package deal or something, the sale of all these Jane Austen things. So I ended up getting it, and it's really fun too. So if you want to listen to a fun just dramatization of Northanger Abbey, you know, before you read it, if you haven't read any Jane Austen, you want to kind of get your feet wet, I highly recommend it. I thought it was a fantastic audio version. But it is a dramatization. There is others that just, you know, read the book itself. But the dramatization might be a great place to start. And then I read, well, I'll go ahead and tell you about the other Jane Austen July book. And then I read Jane Austen at Home by Lucy Worsley. This was fantastic. It is well researched. I do enjoy Lucy Worsley. I like to watch her documentaries, and I'm a big documentary fan. I love them. And she does a great job with documentaries. She makes it very exciting. I love how she presents, you know, the research that she has found about all of these people in history and events in history. And the way that they film those documentaries are just great. I I mean, that's one of my favorite things to watch are those documentaries. And when I see her name on there, Lucy Worsley, I'm like, okay, I gotta watch this one. So when I saw this book, I definitely had to have it. I've mentioned before that I bought it last year, but it came in too late, so I saved it for Jane Austen July. I'm so glad I made it a priority this year because it is, again, a great read. She has done her homework on Jane Austen. In the beginning, I thought it was going to be about Jane Austen's different places she lived, and it is, but it's much more than that. It's about Jane not really having a home. You know, in most of her life, she was kind of sent from place to place to live with relatives, and it talks about all of that. But it also goes into a lot of detail with her relationships with her family, her relationships with other people in her community, and how they became like found family to her, and just her as a writer, and in that time period, a woman writer, and her struggles with that. So I do recommend this one. I gave it 4.5 stars, and the reason I didn't give it 5 stars was there were a few places that, I don't know, I felt like she was kind of reading into some things. I mean, yes, it's well researched, but she made some assumptions, and I see this a lot of times in newer biographies and things where they want these people to be modern versions of themselves. And Jane Austen was not modern. she was of her time, and that is okay. I don't know why we have a problem with that. I mean, if you lived in Jane Austen's time, you would have the same attitude and beliefs as she did, and there's nothing wrong with that. We still can celebrate her life, you know, even though she doesn't have our modern ideas. And I just find it hard to believe that she did. Now, I'm not saying that she wasn't ahead of her time and she had some ideas about what women should be doing. I'm not saying that. But some of the things were, she would say, like, I think, I wonder, and it's like you're putting words into her mouth, and we don't know what she was thinking. And so we're looking at it from a different angle. You know, we're looking back in time, and a whole lot of time has passed since Jane Austen. So I just found those parts to be putting words into her mouth, and I didn't appreciate that. It's not a lot of that. There's only a few places, but it's kind of hinted at the beginning when she's introducing her introduction. She's kind of like, I imagine her being a lot like me kind of thing is kind of what I read in that. And so then it was like, she wants her to be like her maybe, or like us, so we can relate to her. But I think we can relate to her anyway. She was a woman, and she was, you know, trying to be a writer, and she had the same struggles we have today, just in a different time period. So, you know, I didn't think that was necessary, and I don't like it when these, I find it in a lot of the newer ones, sadly, but I don't like it when they try to read into things and make these people who they want them to be. I hope I'm making sense with that. Anyway, I do recommend it. It was a wonderful read, greatly detailed, and if you are interested in Jane Austen, I highly recommend this one. And then finally, I read The Growing Summer by Noel Stratfield, and I read this one just because, I mean, look at the cover. It's fantastic. It said Growing Summer. I had picked this up a while ago and thought, okay, I'm going to read that in the summer because apparently it's about these children and their summertime. And it was perfect for the summer. If you're looking for a summer read, pick this one up. This is a middle grade. It's not too long. It didn't take me long to read. And it was wonderful. Now, I have not read Noel Stratfield. I know a lot of people talk about ballet shoes and whatever those shoes books are. I've never read any of these. But I will be picking up some more. So if you know of a Noel Stratfield that you think that I would enjoy, let me know in the comments. But this is about these 4 children who are sent off for, it's pretty much an emergency happens in their family, and they're sent off with this great aunt in Ireland, and it's a pretty quick thing. They just have to kind of grab their things and go, and she's kind of like a last resort. Well, they don't know her. They've never met her, and she's really an eccentric character. I loved her for her just quirky ways, and she does some really strange things, and she communicates with the birds and the dogs, and it's just so funny how just her thought process is so different than what they're used to. And I thought it was a great read for the children growing. There's another version. I think the version of this when it was published in the States was the Magic Summer. This one's called the Growing Summer, and I think it fits it better because the children do learn and grow. They learn to be more responsible, more independent, because when they get there, they just have this sense of entitlement. That's what I loved about it, for one thing, because I think a lot of times our kids today just have this sense of entitlement, and they're like, you know, what are you cooking for us? How are you taking care of us? And this great aunt's like, there's the kitchen, go do it, go, you know, find something to do. And like they want her to buy them toys and all these things, and she's like, well, you've got this whole house to explore and this whole area of Ireland to explore. You need to go figure it out. So I loved that about it. I don't know that some parents today might find it to be dangerous, you know, and I understand that because our world is a lot different than when this was written. I think this was written in the early 60s, 1960s, but I find that to be refreshing. I wish that we could just let our kids go and do these things and feel safe. I know now we can't do that. But I do think that we need to give our kids a little more responsibility. And I myself am guilty of not doing that in many ways, bubble wrapping our kids, you know, today. So I just thought that it was a great look at that. And I think that these kids learned a lot along the way. So I highly recommend The Growing Summer. If you're looking for a fun, older book, because again this was written in the 1960s, where the kids are, you know, off on their own exploring, you know, having a new adventure in the summertime in Ireland with a very quirky character to boot, you might enjoy this one. So those are the books that I read this past week. I also, and not that you care about this, but I know a lot of us like to do puzzles. I also found this cute little puzzle at a thrift store. It was $1, and it is a painting by Jane Wooster Scott, and it's called Fetching Florals. I just thought it was a beautiful little puzzle, and so I put this together too this week. Enjoyed doing that. I don't do a lot of puzzles, especially in the summertime because I'm outside, but this summer it's just so hot during the afternoon, so in the afternoons I would work the puzzle. So I thought I would share that too, because I know a lot of you like to do puzzles while you're listening to audiobooks. And I found that at, I think it was a Salvation Army. So if you're looking for puzzles super cheap, try a thrift store, Salvation Army. Those kind of places have them super cheap, and you can find some really good ones there. That one was like 550 puzzle pieces. I liked it better because it was larger, and the older I get, the harder it is to see all those little pieces. So anyway, I did do that as well. What have you been reading this past week? Are you participating in Jane Austen July or any of the other readathons this summer? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.